What do you need to see to create optimism coming out of New Orleans Saints minicamp? Ladies and gentlemen, that is the question posed to us today. New Orleans football is the backdrop. Nicholas, Mike Triplett. All right, OTAs are over. Minicamp is up next. So, now that we've seen and heard plenty from OTAs, what are we hoping to see from minicamp? Well, I would say an easy answer is we want to see progression, continued progress, continued upward movement, upward momentum from these young players. So we want to see more development and steps forward from Tyler Shough, from Spencer Rattler. We want to see some more of these draft picks start to get involved. We want to see some more of the veterans kind of start to weave their way in. How does the whole team look? How does Spencer Rattler look with Alvin Kamara? How does Tyler Shough look with Chris Olave? How does this whole picture start to come together? Also, we want to see the systems. Kellen Moore system, Brandon Staley's system, what does it look like actually off paper and onto the field?
Which was the first topic. Minicamp is coming up this week. We'll be back out there tomorrow on Tuesday, and the fans will be out there as well.
Yeah.
Last look before the summer. What are you looking for to just kind of create that sense of optimism? Not necessarily like ABC, these are the things I want to see, just like the optimistic glow. Like what would create it going into the offseason for you?
Look, I know we're content creators and we're trying to get clicks and stuff, and I should give interesting answers here, but I played around with this and I couldn't come up with anything that's not the most basic two answers in the world. The only things that will give me optimism about this team are health and QB play. I mean, no duh, I understand that. But look, last year we were so excited. Eric McCoy sat in this chair next to us. We talked to him out there. We talked to Cesar Ruiz out there. We talked to Taysom Hill out there. We talked to Carr. We talked to the receivers. Everybody was so excited about the new offense they were installing. The buy-in was so high. And it all got blown up because of injuries and then coaching and quarterback play and all the things that blow a team up. So I can't buy into buy-in. I can't.
Michael, brother, it's a good time to be alive. Turn that frown upside down, my man. Get on to PJ's Coffee. Get you a granita or whatever the frozen coffee is. Relax. Damn. You talk about Debbie Downer. Good Lord have mercy. Here's the deal. And I keep, okay, there's a lot to unpack here, obviously. And I'll let him go for a little bit there because at first I was about to start crying. But as far as last year, we were excited about last year and look what happened. In injuries and calamity and chaos and everything that happened last year with the Saints, if any team in the NFL went through that, their season would go up in smoke. But should the Chiefs or the Bengals or the Ravens or whoever go into the season I can't really buy in because what if Lamar Jackson gets injured? What if Joe Burrow gets injured? What if Patrick Mahomes gets injured? Injuries are the most just random thing in the world. You got to kind of put those separate. You got to kind of put them on the back burner. I'm already hearing some comments or reading some comments that are like, well, we're still super thin at center. Look, if Eric McCoy goes down, we're cooked. Okay? If Alvin Kamara goes down, we're cooked. All right? If blank player goes down, we're cooked. That's just how it is. That's injuries. You can say that about the Saints. You can say that about the Bengals. You can say that about the Oklahoma City Thunder. You can say that about the Florida Panthers. You can say that about whoever. Right? So I know it's natural, but try and remove injuries from the equation because they are just a known variable. It's just a known thing that can happen, but they're random, they're unpredictable. So do your best to kind of push those out of the way. I hear people all the time who are like, and this isn't even in the Saints space, just in sports gambling, where it'll be like, all right, I like the Bengals to go over 9.5 wins. And they'll say, well, what if Joe Burrow gets hurt? It's like, well, yeah, obviously if he gets hurt, yes, take the under. But betting on an injury is kind of crazy. Now, as far as getting excited, I understand what he's saying. What he's saying is you can only get so excited on vibes. Every team's vibe is good right now. Every team is excited right now. Everyone's 0-0, right? Everyone is tied for first in the NFL. Everyone right now is the 1 seed. So every team to a certain extent has that excitement. And until it becomes true on the field, then, what's the point? which I understand to a certain degree. But in the Saints world, where everything's brand spanking new, and we got all these young players and all this stuff, I think this is the rare occasion where OTAs, training camp, preseason, minicamp, whatever, they do hold extra weight. Because seeing what these guys can do just physically, does Tyler Shough physically exist? Can he physically handle the NFL? What does it that those throws look like to Chris Olave? How are the draft picks? Is Quincy Riley being able to hold his own? What's Vernon Broughton doing? How does Kelvin Banks look? Like, even just the look, even just how they are as part of this bigger organism that is the Saints, I think that is worth getting excited about. And my last point before I continue the video, we were not wrong to be excited about the new offense last year. Clint Kubiak pushed that team leaps and bounds further than what Pete Carmichael had them. The fact that he got that much out of a team with undrafted free agents, practice squad players, free agents, fifth-round rookies, the fact that he did what he did, I would give Kubiak an A-plus job. And I know the results weren't there, but compared to what Carmichael had, oh my God. You talk about night and day.
Buy into the mood. I can't buy into the energy. I get excited when I see this, when I see health, when I see the entire starting offensive line at every practice, and Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed and Brandon Cooks at every practice, and Alvin will be there next week. Then I start to think, oh, this offense could be pretty decent when they're all out there. And then obviously QB play, we've talked about a million times if the QB play is good. But if they lose out on health and if the QB play sucks, then they're not going anywhere. So the other things can't move me.
Yeah, the buy-in thing. I think I said this the other day. Like, there's a level of like jadedness, but it's also like the eyes are open now. Like, just some of these like BS storylines, and like, buy-in isn't really a thing. Like when Sean Payton's the head coach, like the buy-in's just there. Everyone's gonna buy in, and then you kind of don't see it, and you like things get bad, and it's like, oh, they're bought into these coaches, and it doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely nothing. Either they go out there and play or they don't. I mean, if they aren't bought in, that's a story, but the buy-in doesn't lead to any type of success.
So true. All right. The buy-in doesn't lead to success, but in our situation, it is important to see how the genesis of like Kellen Moore's coaching career. Like the first couple of weeks, the first training camp, the first preseason, the first OTAs, the first all that stuff of his tenure is important because it's the first. Yeah, moving forward, it doesn't really matter. Like as long as you have buy-in, it's like it infinitely scales. If the players are bought in, they are basically infinitely bought in. If they aren't bought in, they are infinitely not bought in. And the real story is just like, is there buy-in or not? Beyond that, yeah, it doesn't equate. You can't quantify it to wins or anything like that. But there is something there with monitoring how this is all going for the first time.
I'm with you totally on there. Yeah, I think it comes down to the quarterback thing. Like, you just want to see some type of progress. You want to keep seeing it. You don't want to. I think what you don't want to see is anything bad. Like, you just
right. You want to keep going up. You want to keep progressing, because right now, Tyler Shough, Spencer Rattler, Devin Neal, Kelvin Bay, it's all theoretical. Trevor Penning at guard, it's all theoretical. It's all like, yeah, well, I guess right now it's hypothetical, but I guess it's kind of both, But it all could not work, right? Like Spencer Rattler could get out there preseason, be horrible. Tyler Shough could get out there in training camp, be horrible. Quincy Riley, same thing. Kelvin Banks, same thing. Like, all this stuff is good right now in this bubble. We're starting to take the tiny little baby steps out of the bubble. As we take those tiny baby steps out of the bubble, we need to see that it can work, and there's some progress, there's some momentum. Shall we go down a rabbit hole? A long time ago, I worked in oyster aquaculture, okay? This is where we're going. This is the Skrmetta 4 we're doing today. A long time ago, I worked in oyster aquaculture. The way that oyster aquaculture worked was you drop like a big piece of stone, basically. You'd spray a bunch of oysters, spat on. Oysters is the term for it. Like, we're talking like millions of oyster seedlings, basically, on this. For us, it was like these big concrete blocks. The first thing that had to happen was they had to they had to accept the block. They had to start to grow. They had to start to mature. They had to just even begin the building blocks of life. Now, the fact that they took meant absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things, because then you had to worry about predators. You had to worry about, and I ain't talking Bill Cosby. You had to worry about, just them just dying. You had to worry about natural disasters. You had to worry about hurricane. Like, a lot of other stuff had to happen. So the fact that they took meant nothing after they took. Like, once it meant nothing to the actual success, except that success was possible. The fact that what we're seeing now doesn't mean anything to the grand scheme of success. All it gives us is the hope that success is possible, because if we keep building and building and building and progressing, and we see the momentum, and we keep going up, and practice is good, and training camp is good, and the quarterback battle is good, and Kellen Moore is efficient, and practice is efficient, and everyone's healthy, and this and that, then maybe something can happen. So this is the time to get bogged down in the details. This is the time to get bogged down in how the receiver's running his routes, how they look on the field, how they're interacting with each other. Get bogged down in those details, because in a couple of months when the game starts, those details won't matter as much.
Just want them to go through it, and you don't want to see, like, oh man, like Tyler Shough's like hill is steeper than I thought it was going to be. I think if they can just like maintain this and keep it going, I think that would be a good thing. And one thing that I do want to see that I think could help my feeling about this team, and it's going to play into the next transition. So I'll transition into the next one after this. Some decent secondary play, I think, is something that I very, very badly need to see
that written
right
down
now.
for the next one.
Yeah, I don't want to see 85-90% of the passes completed, every single day. Like, that's a little bit frightening. So yeah, going into the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, there's certain things that, and I've also had some comments who are like, why are we talking about the quarterback so much? So you got to remember, too, what we're doing on the field, right? Our OTAs was basically 7-on-7. Shorts, T-shirts. Offensive line really isn't even out there. Defensive line isn't even really out there. All that's happening is glorified flag football, like drop back into coverage, very light. You can only be so physical. So really the only thing that actually is happening that we can talk about is the quarterbacks letting it rip and the receivers catching. Obviously, as we continue and progress, we'll be able to see, how does Kelvin Banks look against Chase Young and Cam Jordan and Carl Granderson? How does Trevor Penning look against these guys? How does Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shough look? How do the receivers look? How do the defensive backs look now that they can get their hands on the receivers? How is all that shaping up? So it will come. Trust me. It will happen. Relax. Just enjoy the journey, ladies and gentlemen. All right. They are slipping into the next topic. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.